First, a block on AmericaLex-S. You've heard a bit of it, but I want to show you the bigger picture. 2, I will move to meta-lexicography. 3, lexicography itself. And 4, finally, generative AI and lexicography. It seems as if the fly-ins don't work, so you see that logo already. That means that when you see that, things will be translated, summarized to Portuguese.
Or can I do? Okay. I see the symbol. All right. Então, a apresentação do professor Gilles-Maurice vai começar falando da AmericaLex-S, vai seguir para o tema da metalexicografia, lexicografia, e vai terminar falando da inteligência artificial generativa e lexicografia. Ok?
This makes too much noise. Let's try this. So we start with AmericaLex-S. Where does it come from? First of all, the existing continental associations. We heard that the DSNA, the Dictionary Society for North America, basically the United States and Canada. 2, the European continent. 4, AfriLex for the African continent. 5, now you see why it is orange. We include the rest of Russia, AsiaLex, and no, not Antarctica. What is missing is indeed South America, Central America, the Caribbean, and even Mexico. So, after some deliberations, we created the Association of Lexicography for the Americas, South, Central, Caribbean, and Mexico, which was abbreviated to AmericaLex-S. Why didn't we choose to go for Latin lex? Well, because it's not really geography, it's a language. Because we would be missing out on varieties of English and Dutch, and the indigenous languages also spoken in this part of the world. Why do we need another one? We heard the introduction before we just started about GTLex. It's a national association here in Brazil. You see the abbreviation there. But it's actually only for academics. It also has a journal. You may have noticed it while coming in. It is being advertised. They have a very professional website, all these working groups. If you click on that one, you go to GTLex. So why would you need it? Same with the journal. Here it is, the website of their journal. I see happy people, yes, the editors of the journal there. And you will recognize the faces of the people sit in the room. Well, it goes, and that's now the summary that will be translated to Portuguese. This is still national. We want to transcend that. So we have these associations. We want a new one.
Ok, então AmericaLex surge no cenário em que não existe uma associação de lexicografia para as Américas, Sul, Central, México e Caribe. Né? Nesse contexto, por que nós precisamos, então, de uma outra associação? Afinal de contas, já temos no Brasil o GTLex, que é parte da ANPOL, mas por que precisamos, então, nos associar às demais associações LEX? A gente chama de LEX Associations, né? Que é a DSNA, que foi mostrada no mapa, que é da América do Norte, que envolve Estados Unidos e Canadá, EuroLex, que envolve toda aquela parte vermelha, AustraleX, AfriLex e AsiaLex. No primeiro momento, podia-se pensar, por que não LatinLex, não é? Mas numa discussão, numa reunião ampla, que tinha mais de 200 pessoas naquela reunião online, nós entendemos que LatinLex não representa a nossa associação, porque a nossa associação envolve os idiomas, que são mais de 560, e envolve línguas indígenas. E Latinlex não iria representar bem o escopo dessa associação, ok? Então, nós temos aqui a AmericaLex.
Now, why am I interested in all these lexes? I mean, we all work on one or a few languages, but why try to cover the whole world? Well, I'm actually not just a lexicographer, nor even a meta-lexicographer. I'm a meta-lexicographer. So what drives me in this field is to take a bird's eye view of the scientific research that is devoted to the compilation of dictionaries. Now, the last level is known as lexicography, making dictionaries. If you take the last and the penultimate one together, you have meta-lexicography. But I want to include this bird's eye view, hence I'm treating meta-lexicography. And that is how the talk is structured. I will start with, sorry for the delay with all the computers, it doesn't work anymore, but the last one, part one is meta-lexicography. Then I go to meta-lexicography itself to end up with lexicography, and finally you zoom in onto one specific aspect, which will be AI in lexicography. So we're actually in the field of bibliometrics in lexicography. It's now 15 years old. It started with a publication of mine in IJL, the International Journal of Lexicography. I started with analyzing journals, Lexicos for Africa and IGL for the European languages. You see the references there. Now, a quote from that IGL article is the following. So it's 10 years old. On the whole, then, languages from Europe, Asia, Africa, Australasia, and the Arab world are covered. Missing are Native American languages. Let this be a wake-up call. Why, after all, is there no South American Association for Lexicography? I called it SAMLEX back then, 10 years ago. So I've been wanting to see this materialize for at least a decade. Also in that article, you will find lots of graphs. I like graphs. This is one of them. And it shows you that while English, French, Spanish, Dutch, so big European languages, including Portuguese, are covered, even Chinese, Japanese, Arabic, Sanskrit, all the way to the other side of the world, Maori. In my big corpus of everything that includes lexicography, you find all these Bantu languages and other African languages on the right. You will miss the local indigenous languages from the Americas. That was based on 3,000 plus publications, 16 million words. You also find in that article graphs like this, showing who makes an impact in the field. You will see scholars, and I'm sure you know them. It starts with Wiegand, Johnson, Hartmans, Gusta, Hausmann, Atkins, her brother John Sinclair, and it goes all the way around the world. You see their impact in IGL, their impact internationally, that's these two colors. But where are the people from South America in the international literature? Well, I found one. Oh, it's marked already, sorry. It is Welke. Okay. Now, I did the same for conference proceedings, analyzing conference proceedings, the EUROLEX conference proceedings, where I looked at speakers and topics through time. What do you see? Of course, it's EUROLEX, lots of Europe, the small slice for the Americas. I break this down. Here you see the result. I don't know if you can even see it, but the contribution of South Americans and colleagues from the Caribbean is negligible. Is this a problem? Yes, if you see this through time, it never really expands. Of course, if there's a conference specifically in a Latin-speaking country, in this case Spain, you will see that over time, the publications that are in a different language than English do have an impact. These are the stars that you see there. So I move on. I'm doing bibliometrics. Here I move to a corpus of 5,000 publications, which I use for this study in green. One of the things we show there, and which you can do, for example, with terms like electronic dictionary, online dictionary versus digital dictionary, is to see how they are changing in our literature through time. Online suddenly took off. In the article, we are pushing digital. I'm not sure what happened in the past 10 years. But what is interesting now is to see the breakdown across the continents. And again, then you see, ironically, even though the technology comes from the Americas, it's especially in Asia that the technology is used, followed surprisingly by Africa, Europe, and again, the Americas is the last one in the list. I've continued expanding that corpus. 5 years ago, it was 36 million words. But you can see, and that is actually the problem, half of everything, let me show it in percent, half of everything comes from Europe, and the rest, well, they are equally divided across the continents. By the way, everything I mentioned, I'm an open access fan. I've just added to my website. You can go on my website and find everything I have published.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, all right. Okay, oh, good. Okay, so you have recap for me, right? Ok. Então, quando o professor Gilles traz a questão da metalexicografia relacionada ao surgimento de uma associação das Américas, ele também mostra a importância desse estudo bibliométrico com relação às línguas que são publicadas, né, as publicações dos idiomas e as publicações dos professores, né, dos pesquisadores, tanto que ele só encontrou de uma forma mais expressiva os trabalhos do professor Gallagher, da Universidade de Brasília, né? Então, ele traz essa questão e também ele revela que não há uma representatividade significativa nas conferências internacionais. Realmente, na AmericaLex, nós não estamos muito. A Ângela já foi para a AmericaLex, a Adriane já foi para a AmericaLex. Eu, particularmente, nunca estive na AmericaLex. Estive por 3 vezes na Dictionary Society of North America e na ILEX, que temos aqui o Milos representando a ILEX, a quem temos que agradecer pelo workshop Sketch Engine, que vai ser nos oferecido na terça-feira. Estive no ILEX com uma bolsa, um bursary, que eles oferecem para professores de países da América do Sul. Então, as publicações internacionais também precisam ter a presença dos professores e pesquisadores da América do Sul, Central, México e Caribe. Então, esperamos que essa associação ela venha cuidar dessa parte que está, de certa forma, falha. Impressionantemente, ele coloca que, tecnologicamente, os AsiaLex é que mais produz atividades tecnológicas, seguido da África, da Europa e, por último, das Américas. Então, nós não queremos ficar por último, né? Ou, pelo menos, precisamos melhorar isso.
I'm informing my translator that you should stick to my slides and not start adding things of the competition. Milos. Okay, 2, otherwise we won't get to the end. Meta-lexicography. So this was part 1, now part 2. I'll do a little tour de force and give you the full overview of where we come from. So it's all started in 1971 with this person, Ladislav Zgusta, a publication, by the way, from Prague, Milos's native country. And you see a very rare first edition of his manual, which is up to today still the most famous handbook, even though it is very dated, it is still very, very good, more than half a century later. So, from humble beginnings only half a century ago, we, and that is my claim, 50 years later, reached stratospheric heights. And 21, so 2 years ago, is really a milestone, amongst others as a result of COVID-19. Now, because in 21 we were treated to more virtual conferences, more research articles, more innovative dictionaries, and more meta-lexicographic research than ever before. We tasted the future, and I claim we are now fully in the future, and the future is here to stay. The next slide, and really let's try to be brief, is a type of table of contents. It will summarize what I just said, and to give you an idea of the way I will proceed through the talk, it will announce in binary fashion what is forthcoming. So I'll first say it in English. It started 50 years ago in a face-to-face world. In 21, we entered the virtual world. We will see in sections 2, 3, and 4, we go from none to few continental associations. Sorry, that was the past. We go to associations for all continents and an active world body. We go from a few publications to massive amounts of research output. And that is also part of meta-lexicography. We go from questionnaires and surveys, and now we go to the unobtrusive logging and analysis of dictionary use. Table of contents of what is coming.
Ok. Então, em termos metalexicográficos, agora ele vai mostrar como nós fomos de apenas Zegusta para entrar num mundo virtual que está se tornando híbrido. Como nós vamos de nenhuma associação continental, de poucas associações continentais para todos os continentes envolvidos, de poucas publicações para publicações em massa dos resultados de pesquisas. E como nós vamos de questionários e pesquisas sobre o uso dos dicionários para algo que é mais analisar o uso dos dicionários, ok?
Obrigado.
De nada.
Now, one of the big names in the field is Gregory Grafenstadt, and in 1998 at the EuroLex conference, he asked, will there be lexicographers in the year 3000? Well, I will argue today that there is a chance, just a chance for our field to survive, but we will have to do it the right way. Now, if that is indeed the case, it also makes sense to look at the future of our field, and that means the future of the discipline of meta-lexicography. So, we start with the conferences of the Continental Associations for Lexicography. Soon after Gustav published his manual in 71, we had the first one, 75, by the DSNA, and this was copied over and over. And you can see a long table, you're not supposed to read everything, but it started with the DSNA, then EuroLex, AustraleX, FLex, AsiaLex, and now we are at, it's still between brackets, we haven't finished, we haven't completed, we don't know if we'll survive at 2023, AmericaLex. Then in italics, we also have ELEX and GlobalLex. They're not really continental associations, but I list them because they also hold conferences. Here you see a few key people who were involved. You may know Edward Gates for DSNA, Reinhard Hartmann, Sue Atkins for EuroLex, Bill Ramsden for AustraleX, Donnie Princeton and Rufus Schaus for FLex, Amy Chi and Gregory James for AsiaLex. So, as we've heard in the introduction, for a long time there was nothing for Central and South America. At the DSNA in 2019, I met Reggiani and also colleagues from Spanish-speaking countries of the Americas, and I thought, this is the moment, let's try to set it up, which in the end became AmericaLex, and here we are now in Sao Paulo. Hopefully, at the general meeting in 2 days from now, we will have such an association. Cross-cutting that, we have ELEX, so this is a group of academics who focus only on the digital aspects of our field. It started in Belgium in 2009, and it certainly has the potential to go around the world. We also have the continental one. It was a long dream of Ilan Kerneman. I also had a dream. He called it PeopleX, I called it PangeaLex, but in the end it became GlobalLex in 2018. So for the first time in human history, all continents will have their lexicographic association in 2 days from now, with a global alliance set to become ever more active. Now, such associations also meet either regularly, biannually, annually, and they try to do them in the off years of one another. Here is an overview. So here I'm listing all the associations. What I want to focus on is the column of the conferences, just to show that there are different ways to do it. During the annual not annual, we don't know yet. During the general meeting, we will see whether it's annual or biannual. During the general meeting in 2 days from now, one of the things you'll have to think about is what is in red there. What will AmericaLex do? That's why I show this slide. Will we have annual conferences? Will we hold it every 6 months because we're new? Will we do it every 2 years, every 3 years? So this is there just to show there's a lot of variation.
O que ele quer mostrar, então, realmente é sobre essa questão dos eventos das associações de lexicografia, né? E o que nós temos ali, to be announced, TBA, é exatamente essa questão. Agora, em 2023, nós vamos anunciar, nós vamos nos reunir para definir quando acontecerá, qual a frequência que teremos os encontros da AmericaLex, tendo como referência o que acontece nas demais Lex Associations, conforme ele coloca aqui no quadro.
Now, if you look at it from a little perspective, a wider perspective, you see that on average, there are over 100 conferences so far. So on average, that means that you've had 2 meetings per year. But of course, averages are always deceptive. So it's better to look at the real picture. We started there back in 1977 with the first DSNA conference. Every 2 years you had one. Then the red ones added to that. That's the EuroLex conferences. Then from 1990 onwards, you have AustroLex going into the mix. A bit later, you have yellow, which is AfriLex, then orange, which is AsiaLex. A long time, no one added anything. Then ELEX from 2009 onwards. The blue is the Global Lex workshops, and now finally, that's the last little bar, where we now add the first conference of AmericaLex-S. So you can see that we are going up, and I think we've now reached the limit, because doing 6, 7 conferences a year, just in lexicography, which is a tiny, tiny field, is more than enough. Now 21, and that's where we saw the boost as a result of the pandemic. We had in just 4 months up to 8 meetings, which was a lot. No one attended all 8. It's a lie. I attended as the only one, all 8. Now, one of the nice things and why it was possible to be everywhere nearly at the same time was the virtual format. And I claim that it is here to stay. We will have, as is the case today, more and more hybrid conferences. And it has the added advantage, and it was kickstarted by ELEX, that you don't have to be able to read this again, plus the formatting has been changed from what I intended. Since ELEX started their conference in 2011, they have always taped their proceedings. You can see all the links there. Now, as a result of the pandemic, other associations started to copy it, and I'm happy that this conference also tries to do it from the word go. And I think this is the future. Actually, what we are watching right now is someone's phone version of the stream, which is shown on YouTube right now, and the link is there in red. That's how real time it is now. So, it's still a mixed picture. If you looked at the website, you have all different ways to do it. I'm sure this will converge in the future. And the big advantage is that these things are live and stored forever in the cloud, in addition to the texts of what we say. And that is the topic of the next thing that I want to talk about. The publications of the associations, not all of them have it. EuroLex, AsiaLex, ELEX have proceedings, AustroLex, GlobalLex, only for some, the DSNA and AfriLex, not at all. Regardless of that, every year a few thousand pages are added to everything we need to read. And if you don't want to read, and if you're like me, everything you add to your big database, your corpus of everything that has been published. I did an analysis of EuroLex proceedings, and you indeed see it grows, and also the impact grows. Here are the journals that are associated with each of the associations. You have the journal dictionaries, you have IGL, lexicos, and the latest one is lexicography. You also have Lexicographica, which is a cooperation between the DSNA and AmericaLex. And here is the overview. What is important here to then also translate to Portuguese is that not everyone is doing it in the same way. Some associations have a journal, others don't. And we don't know yet what AmericaLex South will be doing.
We do. Okay. O Gilles coloca, então, que além dos eventos de lexicografia, também essas associações, elas têm as suas publicações. Não há uma regra de publicação, né? Nem todas publicam da mesma forma, com relação aos anais, com relação a ter um journal, não? Uma revista acadêmica. Mas fica aí para a AmericaLex pensar no que vai querer fazer em termos de publicações, ok?
Now, GlobalLex, as you can imagine, is a champion of cooperation. We had Lexicographica, cooperation between America and Europe, but GlobalLex really goes around the world in two ways. They collocate with LREC conferences every 2 years, and they also organize workshops that collocate with the continental associations. And when they do the workshops that collocate with one of the continental associations, the focus is on neology, so lexicography and neology. Here you have an overview of those that have been organized and where they were published. So it proves that GlobalLex really is something on top of all the other ones. Now, okay, we have all that. But is it any good? Do we have an impact? Are we just doing this for ourselves? So I did an analysis of these two journals, Lexicos and RGL, and indeed there's ever more material. But is more also better is the question. What is the true impact of everything we keep publishing, churning out week after week, working through nights and more nights? Is it perhaps the case that some of our stuff is never ever cited? And then, for who do we do it for? So I made Google Scholar profiles for all the journals that we have seen. There they are, Dictionaries, IGL, Lexicos, and Lexicographica. You can click on these links and go to it, they're live. And here is an ID, the first journal. This is Dictionaries, and you can see, okay, according to Google Scholar, let's take number 2, Sue Atkins has the most cited, or the second most cited article in the dictionary, in the journal Dictionaries. It's an article from, in the meantime, 30 years ago. This is the rest of the list. This is the impact of that journal. Okay, it goes up to what, 230 a year. This is the International Journal of Lexicography. Oh, what are they interested in? Especially all the nets, WordNet, FrameNet, word families. You may even find someone who's speaking to you right now in the top, but it is especially computational linguistics, of course, given the nature of the field that people keep citing. This is the rest of the list of the top still. This is the impact, more impressive. It seems to have plateaued for a decade now. It is about 1,500 citations a year. But it doesn't keep growing. They just churn out, but we have reached the limit. There are only so many references you can add to an article. This is Lexicos, It is a more theoretical journal. Surprisingly, luckily, if you go down the list, you might find someone who is also talking about the African languages there, the person speaking to you. But it's especially theoretical. This is the rest of the list. This is their impact, still growing. And finally, the Journal of AsiaLex, again, technology at top, the sketch engine driven at the time by Adam Kilgariff. The rest of the list, and still growing massively, of course, it is a new journal. So it keeps going up for a number, plateaued for IGL. And the question I keep asking myself is, are there articles that end up never being cited? So I now studied that. I wanted to know, can I find an article of mine that has never been cited? Of you that has never, of all of you? Now, the bottom line of this little graph table, is the fourth column, not cited in percent. In IGL, lexicons and lexicography, 40% of everything we write is never cited. It happens to be the same across the journals. Now, that's assuming once is enough, but we know hapax, it can be a fluke. It may be yourself referring to your own article. So let's take out the ones. Look at the last column. Half of everything we write is never cited. Half of everything. So for every 5 journal articles that we write, 2 are never cited. So we should all spend less time, fewer nights, spend time having fun, go to the Oktoberfest in Sao Paulo, yes, rather than write those 2 of the 5 that no one ever cites. Of course, it's the big problem of advertisers as well. Which 2 of the 5 should you never write?
Ok, então a questão não é apenas ter uma revista acadêmica científica. A questão é o impacto, né, desses journal. E o professor Gilles, ele fez uma pesquisa aí para saber, e tem a conclusão aqui que de cada 5 artigos lexicográficos escritos, 2 nunca são citados. Né? E essa questão faz a gente se preocupar com a implicação dessa produção que acaba nunca sendo lida, nunca sendo observada. A mensagem, portanto, é também que temos que ter o foco em pesquisar e escrever pelo menos 3 artigos que de 5 serão realmente lidos, né? E parar de gastar o nosso tempo com os outros 2, não é? Que não vão nem ser lidos. Além do mais, se nós queremos se nós queremos pelo menos ter uma única citação, nós devemos simplesmente cortar pela metade, ou pelo menos em 1/3, tudo que nós fazemos em termos de metalexicografia.
I want to comment. Robert Lev is live. Robert Lev is the editor of the International Journal of Lexicography. He just commented, of course, he's very unhappy with me claiming this because that means that 40% of everything he publishes in this journal, I've just claimed is junk. That's not what I meant. And he just commented, there are other reasons we write. For our own promotion. You sometimes need a long publication list, no matter whether people read it or not. The reason he just gave, and you may have seen it flashing there, is it is also used in teaching. Some articles are very good, but basic. They're used in teaching, but because they're basic, no one refers to them. No one cites them. So, but I'm known to be critical and harsh, so now, you see, we have a live discussion. It's good. 4. I see we have a live discussion in the room as well. I'm going to try to stop you so we can continue. I know, it's if you hear this for the first time, it is shocking. Let's quieten. We have a lot more to cover. Research into dictionary use as meta-lexicography. As stressed by Rufus House, meta-lexicography used to be separate. We had the discussion ongoing. Used to be separate from dictionary research, but this distinction is no longer upheld. So now dictionary research is part of meta-lexicography. So the actual studies of how dictionaries are used is now part of our meta-lexicography. So, very briefly, because there are good publications, this time it is not mine. You have very good overviews in Anna Zimianko 2018 and Caroline Müller-Spitzer and her colleagues also 2018. Overviews of that field, how to do dictionary research today. And if you use very fancy stuff like eye tracking, please read the article from Asia by Yukio Tono and the other one by the person I just mentioned, Robert Leff, published in Lexicos, the African Journal for Lexicography. If you want to even go beyond that, I have published rather recently a study now that is longitudinal. You look at what people do over a whole decade, and you see that tracking people's usage habits on the internet helps you even to design smart graphical user interfaces. Okay. It has been signed, everyone understood. So briefly, the future of the dictionary, the future of meta-lexicography. Many people have thought about it, but in uneven ways. So I tried the following. I took my database of thousands of publications. I took all those that make claims about the future, and I divided them as follows. Are they practice-inspired, are they theory-oriented, or are they data-driven? And do they talk about lexicography or the theoretical aspects, meta-lexicography? And this is what we get. Let me start with the first column. Practice-inspired. 2/3 of everything we write is basically, we have found something in our own work and we want to talk about it. 20% of the articles we write has to do with theorizing and writing about it. And only 12% about deal with what I'm doing now. You use lots of data and you just see trends in that. Which of the two is more frequent, lexicography or meta-lexicography? Of course, it is lexicography itself. 2/3 deal with lexicography, and no, it's even 3/4 deal with lexicography, 1/4 with meta-lexicography. Bottom line, very few people are doing what I'm doing. I'm currently doing that 3%, the sixth little block. Most people are in the first block. They have a concrete issue with their dictionary. They talk about it.
Ok. Então, considerando a distribuição dos artigos e das falas, né, sobre o futuro dessa disciplina, o professor Gilles investigou quando que são inspiradas em práticas, quando que elas são de base teórica, estritamente teórica, e quando elas possuem aí um componente de corpus, um componente de dados. A lexicografia, então, coloca-se 32% em termos de lexicografia de forma escrita, num tópico mais específico, e 26% geral, né? E vemos que, em termos de teórico, praticamente 10%, em termos de dados também. E a metalexicografia, quando se fala em prática, 9%, em teoria, 12%, e em base de dados, pesquisas com base de dados, 3%.
As you can see, you talk about lexicography, but some people have their own sidetracks. So there's a discussion going on, probably because I pronounce Mexico, I try to pronounce it in Portuguese now. People are discussing how to do it and how to spell it. So this has nothing to do with my talk, but this is life, and this is also one of the problems of these big language models. They try to synthesize the core, but you have all these sidetracks. It's actually going on as I speak. Block number 3, lexicography, we're getting there. I'm going to show you 50 oppositions now. They are very personal views on the past versus the future. There will be 5 blocks. I will talk 5 times and summarize it 5 times. First, something about the dictionary making process. All future dictionaries will be born digital. I don't think I have to say more about that. Many will be the result of crowdsourcing. The result will be stored in the cloud. Bottom-up processes. They will be more democratic as a result. All of them will be the result of looking at actual data in a corpus, which will be analyzed and synthesized from scratch. Defining and translation will be automated. Some of it already is. Examples in the dictionary, of course, will all come from corpora. The entire compilation process, you're welcome to attend. Mila should talk a bit later during the conference, will be performed by machines. We are nearly there. It will be faster than ever. Some of it will be even live on the internet. Now, while lexicographers tended to be language graduates, future ones will be computer scientists. Here is a summary. So we go from the past, which is already here, what we see today, and we contrast it with the future. So we go from publisher and academia-driven to crowdsourced material. We go from top-down to bottom-up, from undemocratic to democratic, from manual reading and marking in the 1980s, from manual corpus extraction to automated corpus extraction, from copying in alphabetical order, yes, that's how people compile dictionaries, to analysis and synthesis from scratch. From entries written out by hand to corpus example, to automatic defining and translation. From invented examples to corpus examples. From humans, basically, to machines, from slow to fast production, and from language graduates to computer scientists.
Então, aqui estão algumas mudanças no processo como fazemos os dicionários. No início, pensávamos mais em publicações e dicionários que eram para a academia. Agora pensamos em crowdsourced. A Panara vai explicar muito bem o que é isso na apresentação dela. Top-down para bottom-up processos, top-down para processos bottom-up. Processos que não eram democráticos para democráticos. Manuais de processo manual para processo automatizado em extração de corpos. De relatarmos as entradas na ordem alfabética para análise e síntese, das entradas sendo escritas à mão, agora extraídas automaticamente, definidas automaticamente e traduzidas automaticamente. Dos exemplos que eram inventados, agora com a necessidade de serem exemplos retirados de corpos, de compilação humana de dicionários para compilação por máquinas, de produção vagarosa para produção rápida de edições, e de lexicógrafos que são graduados, que são acadêmicos na língua, para lexicógrafos que possuem linguística computacional e também as ciências computacionais.
Okay, that was the first of the 5. What about the tools and the concepts that will be used in the future? The field will professionalize. We will have more and more corpus query packages, dictionary writing systems like TLEX and the sketch engine that is used, and well, we'll see the workshop later. Theories. I hope we will always depart from a theory. It could be any of these that you see listed there with their authors. Will it be meaning text theory by Malchuk? Will it be frame semantics by Fillmore? Will it be construction grammar by Lakoff, Fillmore, and the others there? Will it be generative lexicon by Pusteyevsky? Or will it be my favorite, the theory of norms and exploitations by this man here, Patrick Hanks? Now, if you look at the dictionary field today, you will see that people try to call some works glossaries, others vocabularies, still others terminologies, dictionaries versus thesaurus, encyclopedia. This is something from the past, these distinctions will blur. Now, this is an important point, and it's in bold. All but a few of the existing dictionaries show an undue insistence on meaning. But we know that words don't have meanings. They don't. They only have meaning potentials, which are triggered by the context. So future dictionaries will show uses only, because that's all you need. And it will then map meaning onto use, which is, of course, what Patrick Hines has been saying for several decades. A particular problem of bilingual lexicography, and I have an example here, is that they try to cram 8 dictionaries in one. I'm holding 8 dictionaries. It has, well, first of all, they try to please both the native speakers and the learners. Then they try to have a dictionary that is both decoding and encoding. And they put the 2 sides in one, so 2 times 2 times 2, it's 8. 8 dictionaries in one. The result of working like this is that you pull, you tear at the source language to fit in the target language. So the target language always exerts a pull on the source language, something that Sir Atkins has been saying for several decades, since '96 at least. So everything you find here is wrong, because they try to do the impossible. Another thing where theories and new concepts will come from is not from copying what people in the West, or especially in Britain, have been doing. No, the new ideas will come from dictionaries for languages of limited communication, will come from inclusive dictionaries. Yes, dictionaries for signing, and dictionaries even for endangered languages and languages that have to be revitalized, like those in Australia. So here is the overview. Past versus future. We go from shoeboxes and word processors to corpus query packages and dictionary writing systems. We go from a theoretical vacuum to linguistic theories. We go from a fixed dictionary types to a blurring of those types. A focus on meaning to a focus on use. Bilingual dictionary, the spool of the target language will disappear, and it won't be the dictionaries of the major languages anymore, but the small languages, the inclusive ones and the endangered ones, which will show the new ways because they need new approaches.
Okay, can you just... Okay, thank you. Então, mais uma vez, a questão do passado, do presente e do futuro com relação a, agora, às ferramentas e conceitos, né? Então, nós saímos aí de pequenos gabinetes, de pequenas fontes, para irmos para fontes, corpos que permitem a extração de várias informações. Um sistema que permite a extração de várias informações. Nós saímos aí de teorias que ficaram, né, anunciadas para teorias definitivas e definidas como linguísticas. Nós saímos de dicionários exatos, de dicionários padrão, como a gente também diz, para dicionários de vários tipos. Nós saímos do foco do significado para o foco no uso. Nós saímos de experts que juntam tudo numa coisa só para dar um tratamento apropriado ao que estão fazendo. E nós saímos de dicionários apenas para os principais idiomas para dicionários de línguas minoritárias e dicionários inclusivos, como dicionários de línguas indígenas e dicionários que também retratam uma tendência, algumas tendências.
I didn't follow fully the Portuguese, but the point was, these will not be the main dictionaries of the futures, but they will drive the theorizing about how to compile dictionaries of the future.
A grande questão é que esses itens vão levar-nos aos dicionários do futuro. Serão esses itens que vão fazer a diferença nos dicionários que vamos produzir no futuro.
Now, how will the dictionary look like? The appearance of the dictionary. Think of a dictionary today, and most of us, given our age in this room, are still thinking something like this. Ask my children about the dictionary, and they will stare at you, and at best they will show this. Okay. So, where's a dictionary? It's intangible. It's digital. However, future dictionaries are also dynamic rather than static. They will have levels of granularity, layers of varying complexity. You will be able to switch on certain slots in your dictionary. They will be search-centric. If I search for a restaurant, I want one in Sao Paulo, not one in Ghent today. Right, so it should be the same. If I search for a meaning, I want the meaning that I need in a specific context. I don't want to see 20 pages for the verb run and 300 meanings. I want to see meaning 265b and not any other one. Future dictionaries will also be organic. They will change with time. Future dictionaries will become an interactive service, as we, dictionary makers, will be talking with our public. In other words, we will reach the personal dictionary, which is unique, it adapts and it changes. Hence, we go finally to what Sue Atkins claimed at the AmericaLex Keynote in '96, the virtual dictionary. Your dictionary does not exist. It only exists at the time of consultation. It had been actually already proposed, not before '98. So yes, Steve Dodd also proposed it, and I had my version in 2010 of the idea of a virtual dictionary. We will go from multilingual to truly multimedia, from 1, 2, or 3 media to multimedia. Now we go to the multilingual, and from monolingual, bilingual to truly multilingual as well. In other words, what we do is fill a database with facts, and then decide, press a button, I want a pocket dictionary, but only monolingual. I want an unabridged one, bilingual. You just press buttons, and it all comes from one single database. So the concept is one database, many dictionaries. Currently, the consultation is free and inflected form. You have to know how to look up a word, because we have traditions, but we also know that for many exotic languages, especially think of the indigenous languages of this country, you can't do that with polysynthetic languages from North America, for example. So search will become via any way you want. And if you can't find it, there will be automatic rerouting, multiple access routes. What has the study of log files revealed? Well, that people do not longer look for words, they actually dump in entire pages of information, and they want translations or information on that. So at the very least, you need information on frequent clusters, frequent collocates. Lexicography has been doing this now for some time. There was a workshop on that last Friday. But we will go from looking up to searching, of course, given the technology. And very important, this concept of Krista Varantala, who is a past president of AmericaLex, terminologist. You want to provide exact answers to imprecise, fuzzy, and even incomplete queries. It's like talking to ChatGPT and you make a lot of errors, and ChatGPT doesn't care, corrects your errors, and is still able to give you a proper answer. In the future, we will ask and hear rather than look up. We will look and see rather than look up. We will point the device rather than look up. Here is an example from February. I don't know if some of you recognize this, but I was in Japan, Tokyo, Japan rather, in that order. And if you go to the bathroom, this is amongst others what you find next to the toilet. So in brief, it does all sorts of, it's technology, all sorts of funny things to that part of your body. It heats, it splashes water, it shakes, it plays music. Now, if you want, it happens, Tchaikovsky, to ease yourself, but you press the wrong button and it suddenly becomes 80 degrees. That's not what you want. So I was thinking, which button? And I looked for a dictionary. Papa, Pico Francois comes, he's 8-year-old. He took his camera, and he showed me the same thing translated in my language or in his language, Flemish. So this is lexicography, of course. But I was still, I'm a dinosaur now. I was thinking the old way, how to solve this issue, to have the right button. I found Tchaikovsky. We will start not from scratch, but machines will, of course, provide us with sketch engines. Word sketches, which are found in the sketch engine, will provide us with good example. I'm looking at Tanana, she has a PhD on that for Portuguese, from which we can choose the good ones to include in our dictionary. So we will not start from scratch. Machines will help us do that. So all in all, we go from a true service. We go from a static product to a true service. Users will decide how to make use of that service. And some people will not even realize that dictionaries are involved in what they are doing. My little boy, Pico Francois, doesn't know until I told him, I have to, as the father lexicographer, I told him, you've just been using a dictionary, not Google Lens, to translate and find which buttons to push there. The dictionaries, in other words, will be subsumed in other tools, Google Lens, but also augmented writing assistants, or more in our field, a beautiful example, Collocate, where you get real-time collocation suggestions as you write. Some of the people involved in that are here. You can ask them about them. In other words, picturing how the future dictionary will look like, the bits and bytes in here is impossible. And this is what is now summarized. You go from, I'm sure they don't need it, from paper to digital. You go from static to dynamic. You go from a finished product to an interactive service. One size fits all to a personal, customized one. From one medium to multimedia, from mobile and trilingual to multilingual, that's all easy. Dictionary entry via the Lamada versus automatic. Dictionary entry via any inflected form. That is clear.
Okay, dictionary entry via Lemata versus you can put it down. Versus dictionary entry via Lemata or any inflected form. Sim, ou você pode procurar pela forma lematizada ou por qualquer forma inflected, né? Qualquer forma variante daquela forma padrão lematizada.
In the past, it was hit and miss. Today, they reroute. When you type in an error, the machine still knows what you're looking for. In the past, you had either semasiological, monomasiological dictionaries. You don't need that distinction anymore. You had just one way to enter the dictionary. You have to know the alphabet. Today, you don't. My children speak to Google, and Google just replies. So that's another way to access your dictionary. You go from word treatment to treatment of text of any length. You go from lookup to search. You go from looking up in a book to asking and hearing, looking and seeing, pointing and hearing. It has a lexical bias. It will move to lexicon plus a corpus, bound cross-references to unbound identity, that synthesis only, do-it-yourself analysis, standalone versus subsumed in other tools, say in what is today's smartphone. But I'm warning you, this is also old. Soon we will be leaving a two-dimensional screen. Now, what are the facts about the dictionary? When future dictionary users will use their dictionaries, they will know a few things about them. They will know it's always up to date, because if they're not up to date, they won't be used. Think of a monitor corpus. No one is interested in yesterday's news, the location of yesterday's traffic jams. Future dictionaries will give you context-sensitive answers. The problem of word-sense disambiguation will be solved. Here's an example from a Merriam-Webster dictionary. The concept first papers. Perhaps for those who don't know, In America, the first papers are papers declaring the intention filed by an applicant for citizenship as the first step to become a naturalized American. Now we have examples there, automatically generated. And what is the problem with them? Last week, the first papers from a collaboration between so-and-so. That's nothing to do with what we need. So I skipped the first two. Let's see, further down. In the month since the first papers, the ages of... No, that's wrong. Marcus has said that it is one of the first papers to show... No, that's not what I want. After publishing his first papers on the subject, you just get frustrated with current online dictionaries that have been automated in this way. They are there to help you guide and explain the meaning by giving you example sentences, automatically generated, but no one checks whether they're also relevant. They are not. Now, at least at the bottom, they say, well, it's automatically generated and any opinions expressed in the examples do not represent those of Merriam-Webster. It's America. They have to protect themselves. But I'm going to sue them because they give me wrong information. I don't care about their issues. They are telling us they're going to provide us with lexical analysis and the synthesis of it. They have this fancy dictionary, and after 200 years, this is what they give us. So, the future is here, but not always. We still need, and we'll come back to that, human input as well. Future users will know that the dictionary is always helpful, because if it's not, they will stop using it and there will be no advertising. They will know they interact with the machine, and they know machines don't make mistakes. Well, we've just seen they do. But still, users will think a machine is always right. Future dictionaries will be at their best with neologisms, because we need the new information about the new. So if someone talks about Covefe one day, the next morning you must know what it means. Let's just go to this. Dictionaries used to be always out of date. Today they will be up to date, or rather not today. In the future, we go from context-free information to context-sensitive answers. In the past, dictionaries were sometimes helpful. They will always be helpful. They were for machines. They were for humans. They will become for machines. And the focus now turns to neologisms.
Ok, então, mais uma vez essa comparação, né, de passado, presente e futuro, considerando que os dicionários eles tinham uma tendência de ficar fora de moda, né, as palavras obsoletas, e agora passamos para palavras atualizadas, para conteúdo atualizado. Informações que não eram contextualizadas para informações que são sensíveis a contexto, que se importam em ser colocadas em contexto, de dicionários que podiam ser úteis para dicionários que necessariamente são úteis, e dicionários que vinham de humanos e máquinas para dicionários que vêm de máquinas e também de humanos. O foco, que era mais diacrônico, tinha um componente histórico mais forte, para um foco mais na língua corrente, que podemos entender a questão dos neologismos mais presentes nos dicionários.
And then finally, what is the image of the dictionary? Well, the image is a self-effacing one in the future. The focus will be not on prescription as it is now, but on just describing a language. And we, lexicographers, will basically hand over control. We go to an open-ended coverage, a ragbag, if you want. Only free dictionaries will be good dictionaries. People will stop realizing that they even need dictionaries. They will just be containers of mere facts, public goods, freely copied, used, reused, without acknowledgement. The reference publishers will disappear. We will have a monopoly. And even going to exotic places which used to be fun won't be fun anymore. Here, just one example. You're in Ethiopian, you're in China, you see a Mandarin menu, you can't read the script, just point your phone towards it. read it in Amharic, speak in Amharic to your machine, the machine translates it to Mandarin, and the waiter understands. So all of this is actually lexicography being done for you. There will be the lexicographies, which makes a dictionary look like a dictionary. You know, the abbreviations and all the funny things lexicographers use will disappear because there's no need for this. But with this, the symbolic value will disappear. The Bible status will disappear. And as a result, we now go from primarily prescriptive to merely descriptive, from a limited coverage to open-ended. We know that dictionaries are expensive, but they're worth the cost to. Only free dictionaries are good dictionaries. Users know it is essential to consult dictionaries. Users don't even know they need dictionaries. Users know that it was a hard job to make a dictionary to just a one-stop service. No need for exotic scripts anymore. Plain language, and finally, unfortunately, the Bible status that dictionaries now have will disappear. They will have no status. People don't even know they are there.
Então, perto do final, nós também vamos vamos continuar falando da imagem, da visualização que o dicionário vai ter. Antes, dizendo-se, né, se fazendo descritivo, e agora também se colocando descritivo, com a criação de uma cobertura limitada em termos de acuracidade, para algo um pouco mais aberto, né, em termos de cobertura, de dicionários que são caros, mas que com certeza valem o quanto pesam, né, para dicionários simplesmente gratuitos e também muito bons, de usuários que essencialmente consultavam os dicionários para usuários que não dependem totalmente do dicionário, para dicionários que são resultados de um trabalho intenso e sério, para dicionários que contêm aí alguns fatores um pouco mais flexíveis, né? E são feitos de uma forma mais livres, para publicações de referências que são competitivas, para serviços que são mais consolidados, que estão mais pontuais, para a necessidade de pelo menos fornecerem uma linguagem compreensível e exótica, com scripts exóticos, aliás, eu diria com marcas e símbolos exóticos, né, da língua, para a necessidade deles serem lidos de uma maneira um pouco mais... que não seja entendido como exótico, uma coisa mais intuitiva, não é? Mais... como é que a gente fala em inglês? I'm sorry. User-friendly, that's it. Abreviações, códigos e símbolos para a língua um pouco mais geral, mais simples. E de valor simbólico para um status que não é necessariamente... é um status, né?
So what's the solution? I say we lexicographers need to join forces with the big data companies. At the ELEX 2011, it's already over a decade ago, Michael Randell, Aaron McCain, and Adam McGarrett got ahead of themselves and wondered, will there be dictionaries in 2020? Well, 2020 came and went, and as far as I know, we still have dictionaries. So what is common about these 50 oppositions that I have just listed for you? Could there be something common? Lawrence Orden, there he is, sorry for the formatting, criticized one of my definitions of a dictionary, digital dictionary, which was as follows. It's collections of structured electronic data that can be accessed with multiple tools, enhanced with a wide range of functionalities, and used in various environments. He didn't like it because there's no focus on the lexicon. Well, I have never liked to just focus on the lexicon. I don't like what Bloomfield said. The lexicon is really just an appendix of the grammar, a list of basic irregularities. But Erding was right. What is common is, of course, a focus on lexical analysis, on meaning, on uses of words and collocates and phrases at much larger chunks of text in very big quantities. Also, I did not even have the word language in my definition. Again, I was thinking ahead, seemingly 2 decades ago. For me, it was about the zeros and the ones, the bits and bytes. It's not just language, it's images, it's sound, it's everything. So there's no lexis. Indeed, there is no language if you want in future dictionaries. But meaning is still conveyed and the actions still have to be decoded and thus defined. And that, it's in bold, is a task of a lexicographer, even a future one. That is a task of a dictionary, even a future one. I'll skip that one rude example, but imagine you're in a restaurant in Mumbai. All you do is point your camera to the dishes you're about to eat and it will tell you about something about the ingredients. Or listen, I wrote this in September 2020 when Sue Atkins died. That's why I remember it. On the day she died, I wrote that sentence. I said, the future will be, you will take your phone and you will just be able to touch it and play the sound that you hear. And if it's a Russian folk tune that Beethoven recomposed in one of his string quartets, the machine will tell you. Now you will be very surprised, at least I was this weekend when Reggiani and her family took me out and suddenly, I can't do the fly-ins now here, okay, but we were listening to music and Reggiani's daughter, because we're looking for the author of the song, just pointed her smartphone towards the singer and indeed seconds later we had all the details about who composed the song. Damn it. I predict something and there it is already before it is published. Now they will publish that thing in 2024. So, future will be about search engines, e-commerce platforms, mobile apps, social networks, personal computers, blogging sites. Forget lexicography. Future lexicographers will be data scientists and our profession will be gobbled up by them. So what is left for us? What can we do? Here. And again, apologies for the formatting. Here is the answer. We go back to this book from the 80s, republished in 2009, Sidney Landau, The Art and Craft of Our Fields. We will always be better than machines in taking computer-generated summaries on how language works, on how language is used, to derive meaning from that. We will always be better to understand lexis, language use, and all types of meaning, and be better equipped to interpret and synthesize it than people in any other profession. And certainly better, I claimed, and I still want to claim, than machines, no matter the sophistication, and the AI involved, but see in a few seconds or minutes rather what I have to say on ChatGPT. So, you have to bring in Sue Atkins, her virtual dictionary. Think of a map. If you want to know where you are, you just open Google Maps and it shows you the map and it moves through time and space. This is where lexicography has to go to. Here are all these big data companies. What brings them together? It is that data is the new oil. In other words, gold. Yet lexicography is not yet there. But we have to join forces with the big data companies because lexicographers have something unique to offer. Only we know how to go to the bottom of how language works. Only we have the craft to derive meaning from usage, and only we are able to synthesize this. So, our data will become the crown data that everyone will want because that's what they will need to sell their products. A lot of times people don't know what they want until you show them. It's a quote from Steve Jobs, and that is indeed what we need in the future. Just make what you think is the best possible dictionary, and people will use it. And that will be the way forward. So trust the data, have machines do the heavy lifting, come in for the invaluable finishing touches. I know there was this, but I'm sure everything So now I'll just show you the last few minutes. We started very late, so allow me to end with generative IA, block number 4. It's the block some of you only came for. I'm sorry. I have looked at what has been done so far. This table may look very full, and it is because we have worked a lot within the community. We have had so far 10 good publications on the use of ChatGPT in lexicography. It started in February with a talk I gave in Tokyo, and the last one is 10 days old, just published in Advanced Access, a study by Robert Leff on ChatGPT as if it were a cobalt lexicographer. What do they say? Apologies for the layout. In February, basically, we showed live how good prompts could be fed into a dictionary writing system to write your dictionary automatically. If you want to see that, it's an hour and a half. It's on the internet. Live is the best way. The second paper was at the DSNA by Barrett, and he tried to look at definitions, etymologies, and examples, and use stable diffusion even for illustrations. One of the shocking things is that he noticed that some of the material that ChatGPT reproduces is taken wholesale from other dictionaries. It's not supposed to do that, but it did it. Probably because those dictionaries are open, hundreds of websites have them, so the machines have seen it hundreds of times, and there is an example of something seen hundreds of times. So there's some memorization going on. Then we had Michael Rundle at an AmericaLex conference asking, are we nearly there? And his conclusion is not yet. He looked at meanings, definitions, simple terms. Yes, when it's polysemous, no. He looked at examples, he was unimpressed. Then we had Erin McCain, number 4. She had a lot of concerns about the environment, the bias. I'll take one out. The language of non-white, non-male, disabled, queer, and poor people will be underrepresented because it is underrepresented on the internet, and so it will be underrepresented in anything we do with it. She had concern about the industry, IP and copyright, of course, regulation, and consumer confidence. Then we had Milos together with Michael Rundle. They have a beautiful overview of all the technical aspects. They conclude that it is not doing well for word sense divisions and that lexicographers are still needed. Definition extraction, can ChatGPT help? The conclusion was yes in that paper. There was a round table. The best way to summarize the round table is to go and just watch that 1 hour and to hear all our opinions. The concluding keynote at ELEX was a SWOT analysis, and she showed how we can try to see the weaknesses basically of ChatGPT and still make an impact if we want to make dictionaries. That was Wendy Nichols. Number 9 is a study that I think is by far the most impressive one by Robert Leff. He looked at cobalt, tried to have ChatGPT write cobalt definitions and cobalt examples. And his conclusion was definitions, yes, superb, examples only after tweaking. And finally, you have the paper that I published 3 weeks ago, where I compared everything with everything, but I think the best is to just jump into it and now do it. You can't talk about this field, I feel, without bringing in Patrick Hanks, because one of the things I say in my study is, ChatGPT is doing nothing new. Patrick Hanks did it all manually 4 decades already. Here you see him, his festschrift, and his magnum opus. So what did he do for the first cobalt? He devised, I'm wrapping up, he devised explanatory strategies for each of them. Each of them, I mean for each type of part of speech. Every sentence in a cobalt dictionary is a full sentence. So a verb will start with, for example, if you sleep, you ta 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 ta, and then comes a definition. And he did this not just for verbs, but also for nouns and function words and all the other parts of speech. He came up with strategies that he discovered manually by trawling through the first corpus. Think ahead. That is what large language models do. They can find these patterns on their own, and we are able to predict the next word. So, after reading what everyone has said over the past 6 months, I came up with one single prompt, and there is the prompt. Please give me a Colbert-style dictionary entry 4, and then I give the head word. Start with the frequency information, and I give instructions to ChatGPT. And ChatGPT does that. Here is an example for the verb recommend. It starts with a verb, sense 1, sense 2, and so on. And the good thing is, indeed, look at the sense. If you recommend someone or something, you suggest that they would be at some. So it knows how Colbert definitions work. What you see here is this fully automated. And I have done this for all the parts of speech that Patrick Hanks had designed strategies for. And my conclusion was, whoa, ChatGPT really does the job for English, monolingual English. Here is an example for bank. It's more complex because bank can be a noun, but also a verb. And it gives everything that I asked for. Now, I'm reaching the Amazon. I needed something for today. But all I found was this. I even wondered, am I at the right place? The first students I found were indeed spelling, but what are they spelling? G. Oh, so what is this going to become? Oh, greve, I concluded. Greve probably in Portuguese. They're striking. How? Let me use that word, I thought. So this was taken 2 days ago here on campus. In that building, they're indeed on strike. So, my best Portuguese, por favor, give me, etc., a definition for strike in Portuguese. And there it is. At first I thought, oh, this looks very good. He is able, he or she, I don't know what ChatGPT is, it is able to give me a good dictionary example. And then I looked at it more carefully and I realized there's actually a lot of English. So, obrigada. But then I ask you to give this in Portuguese. You give me strike. I don't want strike. I want greve. So, this is my question at the top. Oh, disculpa, or the equivalent, that's probably Spanish. I'm sorry. ChatGPT is very friendly. I'm sorry. And it gives you a new version where indeed it looks at the definition now. Let me look at the translation, but it's the same. A strike as a stoppage organized by workers in missions, so on and so on. If you look at the definition, greve e uma paga, and so on. So it uses the word in the Colbert style for defining it. That's the bottom line. And it looks like a good dictionary article. But I didn't want to jump back straight in like I did with greve and end up in a labyrinth. This campus is full of labyrinths. So now I'm going to walk for the end, the very straight lines. I'm asking specifically, give me a monolingual dictionary entry, monolingual, so no more issues in the Colbert style for a verb, recomendar. This is the equivalent now in English, and indeed it gave me a very beautiful monolingual dictionary entry for Portuguese. No issues whatsoever. Here is a translation for the people watching from abroad. With different senses, with the translation, third sense, with the translations, and it all looks convincing. Now I want to move to what is really difficult. Give me a bilingual English to Portuguese one. And I asked throughout for translations in Portuguese. That's what I have marked, highlighted there. And I got bank, and it is translated to banco. And I have another sense, the banks, like in riverbank, and it's translated. And I have a verbal use, seemingly. But he forgot a few things. The slideshow is not cooperating for some reason.
It's not moving.
It's not moving. So the person who is having this, okay, then I'll talk about it. It's a pity. I can't highlight it, but there is an issue with this. If you look at this carefully, you will see that everything that ChatGPT offers. Not everything. The first sentence, okay, but sentences 2 and 3, let's take 2. It says it's a banks. No, I can't do it without it. I need it. I'm sorry. The issue is the following. In order to produce Portuguese, what a large language model is doing, it looks into its database and finds a lot of English, solves it for English, and translates it back to Portuguese. It has been pointed out for Czech by Milos already at ELEX. But I assumed, Czech is a small language. Surely for Portuguese, it will be able to produce a bilingual dictionary. But even for Portuguese, it's a pity because we spend a lot of time on this, and Regina. It will tell you that there is something like a bank of a river. Even worse, it will tell you that there is a verb to bank money, and it will make sentences with it, which are not Portuguese. With a straight face, it is hallucinating. Hallucinating, that's the term we use. Because what it did to solve Portuguese was to look at English, translate it internally to Portuguese, and then retranslate the retranslation to English. So basically, you're just looking at English. Conclusion, despite the fact that Portuguese is a very big language, it cannot be used yet for bilingual lexicography. If you want, during question time, which they insist, I can show this live rather than the prepared version.
Okay, right. Olha, o pessoal fala, né? Vale mais 1 hora com um grande professor do que anos de estudo numa cadeira por meio de livros. Então, é complicado a gente falar, vamos parar para tomar um café? Então, foi muito bem-vindo, Gilles. Thank you very much. It was fantastic. Esse panorama, não é? Que vem trazendo o que nós sempre fizemos em termos de lexicografia para o futuro.